Analysis of variance can also be used to test hypotheses involving research designs with two or more independent variables. These are called factorial designs, and they allow us to examine the effect of multiple independent variables on the dependent variable simultaneously. And they also allow us to assess the presence of an interaction between the independent variables. In this type of design, independent variables are frequently referred to as factors. Although factorial ANOVA can be used in experiments with an extraordinary number of independent variables, in the psychology literature we will most likely see research designs in which researchers use an analysis of variance for designs with 2, 3, or 4 independent variables. Usually the design is referred to a two-way factorial ANOVA, indicating there are 2 independent variables, or a 3-way ANOVA when there are 3 independent variables, and so on. Factorial designs are often represented in research reports as 2 by 3, which indicates there are 2 independent variables, the first of which has 2 levels and the second of which has 3 levels. Similarly, a 3 by 4 would be a 2-way ANOVA, or 2 independent variables, the first of which has 3 levels and the second of which has 4 levels. For a 3-way design, we might see the design described as a 2 by 4 by 5 factorial ANOVA, in which the first independent variable had 2 levels, the second independent variable had 4 levels, and the third independent variable had 5 levels. Let's learn more about a factorial ANOVA by considering an example. Let's imagine that we randomly assigned 30 adult research participants suffering from depression to a treatment independent variable with 3 levels: an experimental treatment, treatment as usually available in the community, and a no treatment control group. As we have previously imagined, let's say our outcome or dependent variable would be the client's scores on the Beck Depression Inventory at the end of the course of treatment. Let's also imagine that we think the response of the participants to the treatment for depression will be affected by the client's marital adjustment. We might hypothesize that the experimental treatment would work best for individuals with higher levels of marital adjustment or support. We might then decide to interview participants before the study to assess their marital adjustment, and on the basis of that interview we would classify them as suffering from either high, moderate, or low levels of marital adjustment. Thus our research design would be expressed as what is the effect of treatment and marital adjustment on depression or BDI scores. Thus we would have 2 independent variables, type of treatment with 3 levels, and marital stability with 3 levels. We could then use a 2-way 3 by 3 factorial analysis of variance to analyze the results. Here is a contingency table in which we report the means for all groups in the study. Notice that combining 2 independent variables, each with 3 levels, creates 9 cells or groups. Thus, we can multiply the levels of the independent variables in factorial designs to determine the number of groups. For example, if we had a 2-way 2 by 5 ANOVA, the design would result in 10 cells or groups. The number in each cell is the mean of that group. Thus, the cell mean 12 is the mean BDI of the individuals in the experimental treatment who had low marital adjustment, and the cell mean 15 is the mean BDI of the individuals in the treatment as usual group who had moderate levels of marital adjustment prior to starting therapy. Thus, the means in the cells reflect the effect of both type of treatment and marital adjustment on the dependent variable. Also, please note the means outside the table or in the margins. These are the means for each level of the independent variable regardless of the effect of the other independent variable. Thus, the marginal mean 10 is the mean BDI scores for the experimental treatment group combined across all levels of marital adjustment. Thus, the marginal mean for the experimental group is not affected by the marital stability of the participants. Similarly, the marginal mean 14.3 is the mean BDI for participants with high levels of marital adjustment combined across all levels of treatment, or it is the effect of marital adjustment that is not affected by the type of treatment that the participants receive. Thus, the marginal means consider the effect of one independent variable only on the dependent variable. The number in the lower right of the display, 15, is the grand mean. Notice that it is the mean of the means in both directions. It is the mean of the marginal means for type of treatment, and it is the mean of the marginal means for marital adjustment. We will continue with this example of a two-way factorial ANOVA in the next class.